Alright, hi everybody, this is Sam, and we're back for another climbing the rating ladder video. Let's see what we get here. Tried to go to the zoo today, but the pass that I had was only valid during the weekdays. And that actually turned out to be a good thing because it rained very heavily, so I would have got poured on. But now I have time to play chess. Alright, Carlos Andre. I'm going to play d4 as always. If anyone wants me to play e4, if y'all want me to play e4, you can request that. And I'll do my best. But generally speaking, I don't play e4. It's been a long time since I played that, and it's just so theory heavy that I would have to be very restricted on what I did to try to not get into hot water in the opening. Part of the reason why I like d4 a little bit better is because it's slightly less theory heavy. And basically the fight is typically happening in the middle game as opposed to the opening, by virtue of it being in closed position. Alright, so we get the Jobava London, which I did want. I want something fun today, and I'm going to go ahead and go with the main idea of the Jobava, which is to play knight b5, threatening knight c7, landing a fork on the rook on a8 and the king on e8. So they go there, which is interesting. I wonder if this is theory, because I've not seen this before. This drops a pawn as far as I can tell. I don't quite see the point of that move. Yeah, so now they go there, but they could have gone there previously. So now they're just down a pawn. Alright, so knight goes there. And now I'm actually thinking about playing a3 in order to stop any bishop b4 or knight b4 shenanigans. I think I'm able to expend that tempo because it's kind of an important prophylactic move to make, and I feel like I'm up a pawn, so I kind of have some insurance. Yeah, and they play there, but it's not a very appetizing move, because now I can simply play knight takes d6, c takes d6, and I have two bishops and an extra pawn, and their structure is pretty bad. And I need to back my bishop up to a safe square. I think probably f4 is a suitable location. Alright, so they castle. Now they do have a lead in development, so I have to be a little bit wary of that. Not all their major pieces are connected. I'm gonna play e3, controlling d4, f4, and making a way for my bishop on f1 to come out. Now it's possible I could play, they play rook e1. It's possible I could play bishop takes a6 there, b takes a6, and they have two sets of double isolated pawns. And now we have opposite colored bishops, but I mean, with 2 sets of double isolated pawns, I think that has to be winning for me. So I'm just going to play that on principle and just assume, not assume, but I'm going to be like thinking that it's better to have, you know, such a superior structure than the 2 bishops. There's a small risk in that we could get to a opposite colored bishop endgame and, you know, it's a draw despite all my pluses, but I don't think that's going to happen. All right. Now, I should probably bring my knight out. Now, I'm wondering whether to bring my knight out to e2 or f3. Because f3, it doesn't actually have that many prospects, I don't think. Like, it has less prospects. But I'm not sure. E2 or f3? It's probably not the biggest deal on the planet which one to go for. I'm gonna go to f3 just because it's a little bit more natural and active, and I'm not sure there's a huge difference on the analysis, like on the evaluation, which move to go for. It's more of a preference. Now they have pressure on C2. That is a perk that they have with their hilarious structure, is they have open B and C files. So, you know, almost every downside has a plus side in chess. So they go there, connecting their rooks, and they're attacking B2. Logical move. Thinking about playing B. Thinking about playing B3, but then C2 is still a little sensitive. Yeah, I don't want to get into a situation where their activity gets a little too annoying, because they have a lot of pressure on my structure with their bishop and queen already, and they can add more easily with both their rooks. So maybe I underestimated their counterplay here. But it's nothing horrible, I don't believe. Let me just play this to defend for now. I could have played b4, but then they can easily chip away at my structure with a5. So they go there, attacking, which makes a lot of sense. I can't play rook c1, defending c2, because then they land a fork with queen a5, hitting my king on e1 and my pawn on a3. Therefore, I believe I have to defend laterally with rook a2. So I'm getting into a little bit of contortions here, and they're playing actively. So they want to play knight to b3, landing a fork on my queen and a rook. So more than likely, I should just get out of the way with rook b2. Yeah. But they're playing... Oh. That blunders that fork I just mentioned to you. Oh my goodness, I'm playing poorly right now. That blundered the fork, queen a5. But they missed it. Alright. I'm getting lucky here because I feel like I'm not playing well. I had a little bit of trepidation on taking that pawn. I'm like, usually you don't want to go for strategic pluses if it gives your opponent really good dynamic pluses. So I was, like, okay, I'm banking on having a really superior structure, but they would have, just so much more activity than me. And to me, a lot of the time, the activity is more important than the structure, because the structure can only be, utilized from a from a position of strength a lot of times. If I'm on my back feet, it doesn't particularly matter that their structure's ugly. So I think they should have won a pawn there. They missed it. All right, so they go there. Soon they could have, when they move their knight away, they'd have their bishop, their queen, and their rook attacking my c2 pawn. But I think I can just castle here. And if their knight moves away anywhere, I'm attacking d6. Yeah, I think this is a good chance to castle here. And here's the good thing about my position. So they're forking my rook and my queen. So I should probably take their queen. Although I don't have to. Although I probably should to get tempo. Should I? Because my rook's attacked. The only other move is to, move my rook away or defend my rook. Which seems hilarious. Just not good. So, I was going to say, the good thing is I'm down a pawn. I would have been down a pawn. But the good thing is that their structure is so bad that it's possible I could recover, because, I'm down a pawn, but all their pawns are double and isolated. All right, so currently they're threatening knight e2, landing a fork on my king and my f4 bishop. However, I think I can get out of that fork and take this pawn that I was mentioning earlier, that if the knight took, it would be undefended. So it goes from me probably, rightfully being down a pawn to temporarily being up a pawn. I saw this attack. This is what I was mentioning. If their knight, ever cleared the way, that would have so much pressure on c2, it would likely fall. Yeah, so they went a pawn back. Now materials equal. However, that bishop is pinned to the knight. If the bishop moves away, the knight would be attacked. And I'm kind of seeing a nice move here. If I played bishop c5, that would attack a2, and it would obstruct the rook's view of the bishop, so I'd be attacking the bishop. And if the bishop moves away too far, I could go after the knight. So I'm going to go for that move. So I would venture to say here that's possible I'm winning in this position, or a lot better, as opposed to earlier I should have been possibly a lot worse or losing. But yeah, I mean, this position is very nice for me. I think their knight is close to being trapped. Let's see here. I can go after the knight, threatening to win the bishop and knight for a rook. So their knight has to go to c3. So I guess their knight is weaseling away, but then I can play bishop takes a7, and I'm up 2 pawns. Note they can't play anything really fancy like knight f4, you know, e takes f4, rook takes e8, because I have knight takes e8. Excuse me, knight takes e1 at the end. The knight is protecting the rook, even though it looks like my back rank is weak. Which it's not, my back rank is not ideal. I would like to have a flight square, but it turns out that everything is covered. A lot of times in chess, you get lucky if you play good moves. Like if you play good moves, turns out you had like you had an out. Or if you play good moves, cool, turns out you had this tactic that you can pull out of nowhere that you didn't try. It's because, as Fisher said, tactics flow from a superior position, but it can be applied to anything. Opportunities arise from good positions. So right now I'm just threatening to win 2 pieces for a rook. So they pretty much have to play knight c3, on which point I'll probably take on a7. So they're confronting being down a couple pawns here. It might not be, I shouldn't say it's losing for them, because I don't really have any passed pawns yet, and they're still opposite colored bishops. The position's still a little weird, but it's very positive for me. So that's a strange move. Rook there. So rook takes e2, bishop takes e2, rook takes e2. And I don't see the idea. There's no back rank like checkmate, and even if they could get like a rook to the back rank, like imagine I can slide my rook back to e1 defending. So I think they underestimated that I was winning material here. Yeah. Now I'm just up a large amount of material. Typically 2 pieces run circles around the rook, unless the rook has a lot of help, like a bunch of extra pawns. Okay, they go there, which is a logical move. Probably trying for f4, so I think I'll just defend that square and give my king some air, some luft. But they played very, very well in the opening. I would say when they got that, they seized that advantage with basically they had a lead in development and they had open lines, and they probably could have won a pawn, and I think they missed that. And then from there, I kind of won a pawn, and then the tables were completely reversed. So. And that's the positive of having strategical advantages like my position, is if your opponent misses their chance, oftentimes your position is good. It's not like, oh, they missed their chance, but they still are a lot better. It's like, they missed their one winning move, and now the position is going back to just being really good for me, because I have all the different, advantages of my position, like their bad structure, and if I can shore up my weaknesses, like if I can catch up to them in development, then I can survive. So it's possible I jumped the gun with taking their knight with my bishop, or it's possible I should have played a little bit more carefully after that, but I'm assuming I may have jumped the gun because it seemed that, you know, I played my best and was still losing a pawn there, but I may have missed something. So they may have aborted here, so I'm going to claim the victory. Good game, Carlos. But yeah, let's look at this game. Like I said, pretty interesting game. I always like these games that are imbalanced. Well, I guess it's funny. I think I was up a pawn to begin with, so I guess even if I lost a pawn, I would have had like a lot of my advantages anyways. I'm just realizing that. So that's probably why my position didn't seem bad at all, you know, even if I was losing a pawn, because material would have been equal. Okay, so, but this is the perks of the Jababa. You know, the Jababa is a weird, aggressive opening, and, you know, you can get positions like this where, you know, I wasn't banking on this, but you can kind of get stuff like this. So I played the Jababa, bringing my bishop out, bringing my knight out, blocking my c-pawn. But so the idea with the Jababa is you're blocking your c-pawn, which, you know, breaks traditional wisdom of, you know, wanting to employ that c-pawn first before employing your knight, just to, you know, get the most out of your position. However, this means that because, you know, you haven't moved your c-pawn, your knight is into the action one move sooner, and that actually presents a ton of opportunities because you have, you know, one attacker instead of one slow foot soldier in the center. And, you know, you saw this, it leads to direct queenside attacks almost instantly sometimes. Like basically, if they allow a queenside attack, you go for it, and that's pretty much it. Like if they allowed this attack, you go for it. If they don't play c6 or a6, you play knight b5 because it's just a good move. Your knight's gonna be rebuffed, but the funny part is, like, if they play knight a6, then they can play c6 and kick your knight away. But the funny part is your knight on c3 is a lot better than their knight on a6. So the weird Jababa knight is actually a superior knight to a lot of black Jababa knights on the queen side. And that's the kind of funky stuff you get with this opening. So they, I guess, had not seen this opening very often. They didn't quite see knight a6 until after they pitched the pawn. It's well intentioned, but they probably should have taken a little bit more time. So I go and take the pawn. Now they see that this move is available, and now I'm just up a pawn. And a3. It's probably a good move. I don't know if it's 100% necessary, but I think it's a good move. I mean, it stops knight b4, stops bishop b4. It's pretty much just a solidifying move. You never want to have to calculate like what happens if they play knight b4 or bishop b4. So they bring their bishop out, but not a good move, because now I can get two bishops and damage their structure. But they do have a lead in development, so that's what their idea is. They're just rapidly developing. I get my pawn forward, and they put the rook onto an active file. And here I took, which is debatable. This is always debatable if you're behind in development. If you want to go for strategic advantages, that is giving your opponent, I'm basically handing my opponent dynamic advantages and kind of, if you will, like spitting in their face a little bit and daring them to do something, because I'm to be fair, I'm developing my bishop, Right, so that's good. But I'm giving up my bishop pair, so that's bad. And I'm damaging their structure, but then I'm giving them all these open files, and I'm behind in development, so it's iffy. I think it's probably not. I don't think it's the best move in the position. Probably I should play bishop e2, and in the future I may play bishop e2, unless the computer says it's fine. In which case I would go for it. Like, I like damaging of the structure. It's a really unique thing to have such a bad structure like that for them, and on its own I like that, but I don't know if it's justified fully. So I bring my knight out, they pressure my pawn, I defend, I attack, I defend. They come here threatening the fork, and I get out here, but now they can play queen a5, hitting my king, which probably I play knight d2, and then they play queen takes a3, and my position is hurting. I'm down a pawn, and well, I guess in that position material's equal, because I'm up a pawn at this moment, so material's equal, but they just are swarming me, and I'm not liking my position. So, but they kind of missed that. They went for their idea anyways. I duck, they go back and attack me, I try to trade, they attack my pawn, I castle, they go here, I trade, take the pawn, and I just think I'm winning. So I think they kind of missed their chance, and they were probably better, and now I'm a lot better because I'm just up a couple pawns and I've got all my pluses, and it's hard to say what to do with their position aside from attacking c2, which, you know, is a good pawn to win, but it's not really integral to my position, because that pawn to me was always the weakness of my position. It wasn't the strength of my position. So I always assumed that either, you know, it was going to be lost, or if I could save it, that it was a good thing. It was like, you know, playing on house money. So he attacks my king, I get out of the way. That was a discovered attack, because now their rook was assisting their bishops, so now they can take this pawn. But now, I don't know, I think that pawn was possibly poisoned, because now my bishop can block, and now I'm attacking their bishop. They go here, threatening some possible discovered attacks, like it's possible they can move their knight, attacking my rook, gaining time, or possibly winning a pawn. Like maybe they could be threatening knight takes d4, actually, which would be pretty devastating. They'd be removing the defender of my bishop on c5, it'd be snatching a pawn, and it'd be threatening discovered attack on my rook on f1 with their bishop on d3. So this move, I think, was integral. Now I'm threatening to win just a couple pieces, and they didn't really, either they didn't, a lot of people don't really, they underestimate how much better two pieces are than a rook. Two pieces are kind of like, it's like if you had two 17-year-olds and you're an adult, like, do you want to get in a fist fight with them? Yeah, you can beat one of them, but can you beat two of them? You don't necessarily know. You don't know. Depends on the position. Brings the rook up, but now I win the two pieces, and it should be smooth sailing from here. They try to attack my king side, but I provide some luft, and they resign. So, good game, Carlos. I don't know that there is a tremendous much more to say about that game here, so we'll go into the analysis. And with this game, we're now reaching over 2100 again. So that's awesome. I want to reach 2200 and stay there, so we can start facing some masters and see how to beat some masters. But of course, once we get our established rating, I actually want to go back to, like, say, like 500, and then go up from there and show you guys how you want to advance your ranks. Alright, analysis. So this was not an early resignation by them. I did think this was winning because I'm up a couple pieces. Essentially, I'm up two minors and I think a couple pawns, or a pawn for a rook, which is quite winning. But let's look at the graph here. Yeah, that graph is pretty much what I thought. I think I was a little bit better in the opening. I got a little frisky giving up my bishop pair, and then they probably could have been a lot better because material would have been equal, but they would have had a huge initiative in lead and development. So it's probably like +2. Yikes. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It looks like I'm like almost dead lost in that position. Interesting. Yeah, these positions are tricky. So when I take... Yeah. I knew it. The computers are so principled. Like, they love their bishops. They're like, why are you giving up your bishop? And it's true. Like, why? That's just me. Like, I love... I like having a good structure. I like giving my opponent bad structures, and I was really excited about it. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know. That's a lot of open lines for them, that they can just attack my structure, and all my pawns are just kind of like, trying to dodge everything, but they can't defend. There's so many holes in my position. So yeah, computer doesn't like this. I didn't like it in hindsight. So don't go for structure over activity. Go for structure if you can stop their activity, but I could not. So it went from being a lot better for me. Like if I just play, it's actually like winning, like it should have been, because I'm up a pawn, my position is better. If I play like bishop e2, it's probably winning. Now it's like equal. Now it's slowly getting worse for me because my position is tough, and that's just a blunder. It's hard to say what to do there. Yeah, that provides a forking opportunity for their knight. So, ooh, it's hard to decide how to defend this pawn there. I mean, how do you defend it? Because if you go here, that says it's fine. The computer probably says just get rid of the pawn and castle. Yeah, sometimes you don't want to get too married to your material, because I was so worried about losing a pawn that I played a really bad move, right? Instead of getting rid of the pawn and reaching this position and saying, okay, they've got pressure, but actually they've got pressure, but actually I'm caught up in development. Basically, while they were taking the pawn, I caught up in development, and now it's their better structure versus my my inferior activity. So still black is better. I would still probably go for black, but this is a lot better than in the game. So that makes a lot of sense. So a lot of times computers will switch moves around, like moves that you think about and discard, you can kind of use later in a different area, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm a lot worse here, but they didn't quite see the winning idea, which was to go in for this position, which is just killer. Yeah, it gives that a full blunder, which makes sense to me because they're winning and now they're just a lot better. And now It's equal again. Yeah, so they go there, and now I'm better by winning the pawn. And I'm just a lot better. Yeah, because they win a pawn back, but I'm getting all my tactics in. So this is an obstruction tactic. I'm blocking their rook's view of their bishop, so I'm threatening to win their bishop. They're forced to move their bishop away while also protecting the knight. Now I can go here, which the computer says is a blunder, which a blunder is not a blunder if it decreases your advantage. A blunder is a blunder if it throws your advantage away. So if you go from +5 to +2, that's still a good move because you're still winning. If you go from +5 to +1, yeah, that's a mistake because now you're better, but you're not winning. Computer says it's not the best move. It's not a blunder by any means. I'd give this like a dubious mark, not a blunder mark. So don't judge these things too harshly. It says this is a blunder because of some reason. It doesn't particularly matter. I mean, their position's losing. Now I take the piece, make the flight square, and win. So pretty good game. My takeaways from this are definitely just to be a little bit hesitant on going for positional advantages and giving your opponent dynamic advantages. Like I kind of felt in my bones, like I'm a couple move behinds in development. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I just couldn't resist, and that was my intrusive thoughts saying just go for the structure, and you can deal with their activity when it comes, but. Probably they would have, any master probably would have smashed me in that position and I would have lost pretty shamefully, but I got a little bit lucky in this game. Yeah, because in this position I would have been pretty depressed if I was facing a master. And I think it's conceivable I could resign in like 5-10 moves. But I got lucky because this position is complex and, sometimes that happens. Not to say that any master will beat you. Like, there's lots of masters where if, um, you know, you're as good as they are, and because I think I'm almost as good as a master, they can for sure make mistakes. But like if you're facing a grandmaster, no way. They're not gonna blow that position. They're gonna steamroll you. All right, good game, Carlos. I hope y'all got something from this. Hope it was entertaining to you. And I will see you shortly for another video. Peace.